So Michelle, you launched Tina and May in 2016. I don't know if you've forgotten already, but if you haven't, if you think back to your launch process in the startup stage, typically I find that startups experience one of three challenges in that stage. Either they have identified a market need, but operationally they just can't deliver on that need. They just can't make it work. Or they're able to make it work, but for whatever number of other reasons, they can't get to market in time, that the launch process is just so complicated unexpectedly that they are constantly having delays. And then the third thing I always see sometimes is budget overruns in the launch phase, which is you're trying to get to the finish line, but you're have more expenses than you have funding. I'm curious which of those three startup risks resonate with you, and if you could just share what you learned through those processes.
If this was a multiple choice, I'd say all of the above.
Okay.
So yeah, we've had the initial, like I think I had explained before, the hardest part, or one of the really hard parts, was not the design phase, but really the manufacturing phase, and finding that manufacturing partner. And I remember very, very distinctly, there was this one customer, she was an influencer, and she's like, I love your bag. I'm pregnant now. I can't wait to get your bag in my hand. I love it. And I'm like, great, awesome. And then the realities of not having that manufacturing partner in place kind of hit. But I think one of the great things is that transparency and being very honest and open with, and again, communication.
Right.
And saying, hey, we want to get you these bags, or we want to get you this product as much as you want to buy the product.
Right.
But we've hit some snags. We'll keep you posted along the way and come on this wild journey with us. And a lot of times they will. Right. And so that same influencer is a customer for some other products. Although the window of opportunity in terms of some of our products has definitely came and went, she's actually one of our best customers.
And so how would you, if you had to do it all over again, how could you have avoided that?
I don't think there is a way. I think with manufacturing, there is a trial and error period that you have to go through.
Right.
I've even noticed with going through having production managers and having people assist, still hit delays.
Right.
And so I think it's just a product of the industry. And so again, I thought I was a little naive with thinking, here's the money, here's the product, make it.
Right.
And in my thinking in the beginning. And so now knowing that, again, having that 8 to 12 month window for new product development, really, and that's before you start talking about it, definitely, is definitely key.
So more realistic expectations.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. So Jens, you just started well, not just, 2 years ago, just recently launched the app, the Lula app. And I'm curious, if you had to advise some other founder that was about to launch an app, what has been your biggest startup risk that you've faced? And what should they be on the lookout for operationally in terms of startup risks for an app?
I would really try to better verse myself in technology, or just even the basics of developing the application. Even if you're not going to build it yourself, try to learn as much as possible, because it's unfortunate to say, but in this industry, a lot of people are going to try to take advantage of you. They'll see, oh, this is a non-technical entrepreneur or founder. If I give him a certain price or a particular price, he's not going to be able to necessarily. He's going to have heard through the grapevine that writing code and making an app is expensive. So I can kind of just give them a price, and kind of a lot of times they'll take it. So my biggest thing would be try to educate yourself as much as possible. Even if you have to delay the project a couple of months, you're going to save so much time, you're going to save so much money, and that's going to help you a lot. And I think a great example of this is we were working with, or the first development team that we worked with, they wanted to charge us about $10,000 to do mock-ups. And I'm not tech savvy enough to build out an app, but I know how to build websites through HTML and CSS, and I know a couple of the popular mock-up websites just because of all the research that I've done. and I actually ended up finding out what website it was that they ended up using for
Right.
their mock-ups. So I was kind of able to call him out and tell him like, look, how are you gonna charge us $10,000 for
Right.
that when anybody with Wi-Fi and access to the $12.99 a month
Right.
membership can
Right.
do this
Right.
for almost nothing? And so that's a great example of really one of the big risks is how people are going to try to take advantage of you because they just think you don't know better.
So being probably what I hear you saying too is just being financially lean throughout that launch phase.
Yeah.
So making sure that you have the financial runway to
Exactly.
get where you're going. So if you have $10,000 of startup funding, you can't burn that on one activity,
Yeah.
right? You have to kind of have a plan, and you guys have talked a lot about planning and scheduling, a plan for the launch, and then look back and say, well, what will it cost us to execute on this, and do I have the funding to get us there?
Yeah, because when you're building out the app, money can burn like this when you
Right.
start thinking about the different features that you want to add because it's you kind of have to, but it's something we often try to steer away from. You see your competitors and their apps look all pretty, and you're constantly trying to compare
Right.
yourselves to them.
Right.
But you have to realize that they're already way more established. They're years old. They've raised a significant amount of money, so you kind of have to be careful because if you try matching everything that they do, you're just gonna eat away all your resources.
Right.
So that's one thing that we tell people to steer away from staying away from that temptation to
Right.
kind of try and build that perfect product right off the bat.
So two things I hear you saying then in terms of managing the launch budget is managing scope creep and feature creep, right? So let's not build it all right now.
Yeah.
And also in your choice of vendors, becoming conversant enough with the
Yeah.
field and the industry to know what's a good deal, because you also
exactly.
don't want to be cheap and have to redo
Exactly.
it,
Yeah.
right? So it's a thin line between being affordable versus being well done.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good advice. So Angela, it's interesting to hear about Artefactus now, but I'd just love to hear a little bit about kind of how these kind of startups get started. And in the startup phase, I think there are three types of risk that people tend to encounter. There's the challenge of having a wonderful idea, but perhaps not having the operational capabilities to really make it happen. You conceptualize it in your mind, but you can't make it work, right? In the startup phase, there's also the potential challenges of launch delays. Like, I just can't get this entire operation in place in time. And then, of course, there are budget overruns during the launch phase. Of those three startup risks, which ones have been kind of more typical or resonate more with you in your experience?
Well, first of all was if the product was going to fit the market. As you can tell, they are very colorful, and we live in the New England part of the States, where people is very conservative and traditional. So I wasn't really sure if the colors were going to really be accepted by the market. And that's why the first 6 months of 2014, I decided to bring a bunch of them and just ask people on the streets, I would say, do you like this?
Right.
Do you like the color? Do you like the texture? So
a lot of market testing.
So a lot of market testing and color testing. I've learned a lot about what are the favorite colors of people. Some of them have surprised me. But yeah, so that was kind of the first risk or challenge that I had. I wasn't sure if that was gonna
If this was the right
really
product
work.
for the market.
Correct. And also as we develop and as we learn about our customers, there are some products that I think it would work, but when we order them and we work with the artisans, sometimes they don't come out as we think they would work.
Right.
So we have to work more on them, change a little bit the color, or change the number of seats. It's too long, it's too heavy. Also listening to our customers, since these are seats and beads, they are big. Some of our customers like more delicate, simple pieces.
Right.
So they have asked us, don't you have, can you create something nice and simple? So we're like, okay, we cannot really put a lot of seats if we want something nice and simple. So let's do macrame technique. So talking to the artisans, they were like, oh, how about using a macrame technique so it kind of simulates a chain and then just put a flower at the bottom, like a charm. So we've done that. We decided the last, I don't have it here, but we have a new kind of flower that just came out. We don't even have it in the website, so I'm just telling you now.
Yes, I'll be the first to get it.
We got it like 2 weeks ago, so we are in the process of putting it together to put it in the website and in our distribution channels. But it's how we can come out with different styles that could fit our customer. So it could. That has been in the process for a while, so it's been like delayed for a little bit until we really feel comfortable.
Interesting.
That piece is gonna really fit our market.
And so, as you're kind of doing new product development, let's call
Correct.
it that, how much time do you allocate for that process? From ideating around a new product to actually bringing it to market, how long does that process take?
I guess it depends on how fast we can produce the piece, in the sense that if the style fits very well with certain kind of seeds.
I see.
So we say like, oh, that is easy to make with acai berries,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that is pretty easy. It comes out in 2 weeks,
Right.
right?
Oh,
Because
okay.
it's very similar. Because when we see beads, right, on the street, like you see a lot of this on the street.
Of course.
So those are acai or acai berries.
I
so we
see.
can just simulate them pretty quickly.
Got you.
But when it is a new shape with an orange,
I see.
then we have to play with it and come up
Interesting.
with different figures.
Right.
And so that takes months.
Okay. Interesting.
That takes months.
And who leads that effort? Is that you or is that the artisan?
I lead the effort. I come up with the idea of
Okay.
the design, even though I'm
Right.
not a jewelry designer. But and then we work together on and they have great ideas because they are the artists. You know, they are
Right.
more creative, and they come out with colors and ideas that would fit. So at the end of the day, it's working together like a teamwork
Right.
in order to develop a new style.
Interesting. And so how do you mitigate? So you say that there's potentially, sometimes your operations can't deliver on this idea that you have in your mind. In anticipating that could happen, what do you do just in case you have this kind of a delay because you can't quite get it right? Is it that you just postpone, as you said, sharing it on the website until you're absolutely sure? What are some of the other things that you put in place to make sure it doesn't negatively affect the business?
Yeah, correct. So in general, we try to come out with 4 different styles. So if there is one that doesn't work, it doesn't really,
Interesting.
people doesn't know. People don't
Yes.
know. So 3 are good enough, and that's
Interesting.
how. It's like when you are performing.
Yes.
Like I used to be a ballet dancer.
Ah.
Like if I made a mistake
Right.
on stage, I'm the only one who really knows because
Right.
people don't know the choreography, right?
Right.
So one of the things that my teacher always taught me is like, if you make a mistake, just continue
Just keep
dancing as
going.
if nothing happened.
Right.
So something like that, if
Right.
you can translate it into the business world, is like people don't know that you are working in a new project or in
That's
a new
right.
style. So I don't announce it until
That's
I have
right.
it.
Right.
So nobody really notices it.
No, that's an
unless
interesting
it-
strategy, which is to kind of buffer your new product development process, right? So let's assume that there's a 25% failure rate. You're saying if I develop 4 products and I lose one, I still
Correct.
consistently have 3 products that I can introduce to the market. So that's very thoughtful. I like that strategy.
Oh,
Good
thank you.
risk
Good.
mitigation.
Yes, right.
So momentum, things are going well now. I'm so excited to hear that. But I'm just curious, as you launched, perhaps one of your biggest startup risks were.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because, being a new entrepreneur and, reading about all the hype and advice that's out there, I remember when the really big thing was, move fast and break things.
Right.
Which is definitely a little bit in, contrast to what you would think about, think about your operations and putting them in place. So I think we definitely experienced that when we started. We had the idea for Momentum in December. We launched 4 months later.
Right.
And so we moved very, very fast. And it was great because, we were able to get out there, get feedback, start funding women entrepreneurs. But, about a month after we launched, we were like, oh no, like, how do we replicate this? How do we, fund another woman? How do we
Right.
find more partners?
Right.
And so we actually had to, take a step back and start thinking about, like, what our operations were because
Right.
it wasn't something that we had considered before. So I think that's definitely one of the big risks that we faced as we were, building Momentum up.
Right, that's interesting. So move fast, but only as fast as your operations will allow you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.